Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Ah, yes. Greetings and salutations. Welcome, one and all, to the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And, of course, if you're watching on Strangerhood TV on YouTube, welcome to the Top 20. It is a glorious October 2nd, 2025. And how is everybody doing today? Yeah, right. I will say I am very tired. You can see from the bags under my eyes that I am just not sleeping as good as I should be. And that always ends up for a better and more interesting and also worse and less interesting Hard Rock Lunchbox. So I will attempt to do my best and keep you amused and bemused as we go through. I don't actually have all that much to talk about today. I was... There's a lot going on in the world, and I am feeling like I am at a point where it's not that I don't care, and it's not quite apathy. I just am really, once again, failing to see the point in any of it at this point. I will say, I will say, like, what's happening in the country, like, it is just so... I think it was Rachel Maddow that said, like, you know, anything that goes on in this administration, like, could really embroil any other administration for months, if not years at a time. And just the constancy of the nonsense that's going on and the failure of people really to step up and do the right thing or even call it out is just so ridiculous to me. And I guess it is apathy, and my apathetic stance on it today is it's probably what they want, right? An authoritarian regime, which, like, make no mistake, is exactly what this is. Like, for all the nonsense of the Republicans talking about Democrats being fascists, I mean, it is just laughable because, like, just by the definition alone, it is clearly what the Trump administration is doing, to the point where they're again going after their political enemies, like through using the Justice Department, which is just really, really horrendous. I was watching something that Senator Dick Durbin was saying on the floor, where he was basically talking about the times during the Nixon administration when Nixon tried to use his Department of Justice to go after his political enemies, and he rightfully said, you know, Democrats and Republicans together stood up and said, you can't do that. There needs to be a level of independence with the Justice Department, because while it is part of the executive branch, it does have a very important function, including investigating parts of the executive branch. And they're just, you know, the whole Trump administration is just based on loyalty and fealty to dear leader, and it is just so bad, and we're watching it in real time. And of course, as I say always, like, people on that side of the fence are just saying how great it is because they're getting everything that they want, which is primarily just owning the Democrats, which is so silly and so childish. Like, we're running a country here, we're not playing dodgeball, and it just disgusts me that people still think that way. I did see a poll this week that I thought was interesting, that the Trump administration has a 35% approval rating with women across the country, which was my immediate takeaway. It was funny to me because 35% approval rating is higher than the approval rating I have for women that still support the Trump administration. So I always count on women to be smarter, and I'm always constantly reminded that they aren't always, and that's it just really is quite something. So all of that nonsense is going on, and there's a government shutdown is going on. I do hope that people aren't actually, like, fired and laid off. I hope they are furloughed and that Congress can get its act together and do this. And I am not on any one particular side about what they're arguing in the shutdown. What I can tell you is that the Republicans have control of all all three branches of government. So them pointing out or arguing or saying out loud that the Democrats are somehow responsible for the shutdown, again, is laughable, because that is really all MAGA and the Republicans seem to be doing. They just don't want any responsibility for everything that's happening. But, like, make no mistake, there is one party that is in charge of everything. So everything that is happening is their responsibility and their fault. They could get it. They could get past this shutdown. And honestly, if they tried to do it with any sort of bipartisan help, the Democrats aren't really asking for all that much. They're actually asking for stuff that people like you and I really need, stuff that's getting taken out, that's going to be taken out of our social safety net, our government lives, things that we count on because of this one big beautiful bill, which just makes me vomit in my mouth just to say it, plus other stuff that's just going to be expiring that we're going to lose. Now, one of the big things that they're looking for is to maintain some of the credits and some of the financial assistance that was part of the Affordable Care Act. Now, remember, the Affordable Care Act was the law of the land. It was, brought in by, President Obama, and it was, passed in the House and the Senate and became the law of the land because it was something that most Americans want. And there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Americans that count on that for their health insurance. And I was watching something last week about what the negative impact is going to be of the funding cuts to this. Not only are people getting kicked off Medicaid, but specifically the Affordable Care Act, the health insurance exchange, which a lot of Americans, like I said, count on for health insurance. Well, what's going to happen is one of the things they're going to do, let's just take a number. Let's just say it's 100,000. It's not, but let's just say it's 100,000 people that are on this exchange. One of the things that's about to happen and it's going to be right after the midterms because they timed it so that people wouldn't get kicked off insurance before they have to vote for their reps in Congress. But let's say there's 100,000 people on it. So one of the things that's going to happen is the requirements or the eligibility for assistance is they're really raising that bar and they're cutting a lot of funds from that. So what's going to happen out of that 100,000 people, say 40,000 people aren't going to be able to qualify anymore for the exchange. Like, I am not somebody that qualifies for the exchange because I'm a salaried employee and I am above that cap, and I'm grateful to be above that cap. But say 40,000 people now fall off that. So now you have 60,000 people on the exchange. Now, a lot of the things that are going to happen is people are going to start losing funding they're going to start losing their tax credits and the actual credits that go into the exchange to be able to afford it. So there are other people that still qualify for this but now can't afford this exchange. So say another 20% of those people come off. So now we're down to 40,000 people on the exchange that qualify and can afford to be on the exchange as is. Well, because it's an exchange, it actually needs to make a certain amount of money to be viable for the insurance companies to be able to do it. So now those 40,000 people have to fund the bill that was being paid for by 100,000 people. Now, one of the things that social networks and social safety nets count on is mass involvement so that everybody pays a little bit so they get to their magic number that they need to be making. Well, if you just took 60,000 people out of that, that's 60,000 people that are not paying into this system. So those 40,000 people have to make up the difference. So the cost is going to be exorbitant. So what I had seen, just a statistic thing, what I had seen is that where a family making $60,000 a year, which is like kind of the upper limit of what it takes to qualify for the exchange, family making $60,000 a year might have been paying anywhere from like $8,000 to $10,000 towards their health insurance, right? It's a lot, but it's manageable, right? If you get to like $6,000, it's 10% of your gross paycheck. But now what they're saying is a family with the expiration of the credits and the enhanced cost of the exchange, a family making $60,000 a year is going to be looking at around $32,000 a year for health insurance. And that's more than half of their gross. That's not housing, that's not food, that's more than half of what their gross is. Now, they are having taxes paid out of that. Even if you end up not paying taxes, you always pay Social Security tax, right? FICA, everybody knows that. There's also a couple other things you have to pay right out of your paycheck. So they're not getting the full $60,000, but they are going to have to pay that full $32,000. So what do you think happens to the rest of those people? They can't afford insurance anymore, so now they don't have health insurance. And while a lot of people, like cold and heartless as they are, will say, well, that's too bad. They can't afford health insurance. Okay. But what do you think happens to people when they get catastrophically ill? People just don't. I mean, yes, people die in the streets all the time, and that's unfortunate. But people go to our hospitals. They go to our emergency rooms, and we have to treat them. The doctors in emergency rooms really can't turn those people away. Who do you think gets to pay those bills? Think there's some magic benefactor that pays all those things? No. You and I do. It comes out of what we pay into our taxes. And as the federal government reduces what it's putting in, our state governments are going to have to pick that up. You're tired of paying really high state taxes? Yeah, well, guess what's going to happen when the federal government isn't assisting you anymore? Everybody's state taxes are going to go up. Everybody. Red states, blue states, purple states, they're all going to go up. And so that's one of the things that the Democrats are actually asking for. They're like, hey, how about they're not asking for anything new, by the way. They're just asking for the stuff that already exists and currently exists to be maintained, and the stuff that the Republicans want to pull out to not pull out. That's all they're asking for. And the Republicans won't even meet with them. Trump canceled a meeting with the Democrats last week because he thought it was going to be pointless. Because this dude wants a shutdown. Because he does not care about you. Most people don't care about you. And certainly the whole MAGA universe doesn't care about you, which I find funny because so many of the true MAGA faithful are the ones that are going to be desperately affected by that. Now, half of me is fine with that and really wants that to be a thing. But it's bananas that the Republicans are blaming the Democrats for absolutely anything, any of the mess that we're in right now, considering they have absolutely no power. Now, in 2026, where I fully expect a decent-sized blue wave to come through, even with all the cheating and gerrymandering the Republicans have already said out loud and are planning on doing, I think it stands a real good chance that the Democrats are going to take over, and then it'll be their responsibility and things will be their fault. But for right now, it's not. It's the Republicans' fault. Now, I'm going to read you something. I don't know why this just occurred to me. I would have prepped for this if I had given it a thought or two. But so my representative here, where I live, is a Republican. We've had Democrats, we've had Republicans. It usually doesn't affect us directly because Long Island is Long Island, right? Like it just is the way it is. Where I live is very Trump heavy, and Trump, took all the districts that I live in and around by more than 55%, I believe. So it's not surprising that we have a Republican representative in Congress, which is fine. Like I said, I don't have a problem with Republicans in general. I've voted for Republicans several times. If they're the right person for the job, they get my vote. But this one actually really pissed me off. That's why I kind of wanted to read this. So, I realize it's a form message. Everybody probably got these from their representatives. Certainly anybody whose representative is Nick LaLota, who's my representative, probably got it. But it really just pissed me off the other night. I was on my way to rehearsal and I got this. And it was basically like a text, by the way, which I didn't give him approval to text me ever, which is funny. But it says the text is this. It's Representative Nick LaLota. A shutdown hurts everyone. Troop pay, VA care, and seniors. I voted to keep government open with no partisan writers. By the way, that is not true at all. Not true. D.C. liberals are against it and requesting health care subsidies for non-citizens. Also not true. Should shutdowns be used as leverage? Reply yes or no and stop to end. Blah, blah, blah. So I actually answered. I said, if Republicans want to come to the table and negotiate in good faith with the people that represent half of the country, that's D.C. liberals, then there won't be a problem. If a shutdown is the only way to make you act like a responsible representative, then that's what's needed. try and remember that you don't just represent Republicans here on Long Island. Do your job and do it better. Now, the reason that I think that that last part is important is because what's going on in the MAGAverse right now, and the Republicans that are just so afraid of Trump and retributions and being primaried, is that they're just falling completely in line. And the only Republican I see, except for Massey, who just desperately wants the Epstein files released, the only Republican I see actually standing up to this nonsense is Rand Paul. And I said last week, I can't believe how much I'm agreeing with Rand Paul lately. He's not my favorite politician, but as far as I'm concerned, he's doing what a real representative should be doing. And I applaud him for that. I think that's right. But I think what's happening with a lot of other people, and you'll see this and you'll hear it in the way that a lot of MAGA faithful talk, is they think that they are just representing those people. That's not how our system works. You don't represent only the people that voted for you, right? You hear about how people I'm going to do this for everybody. I want to be every American's president, or I want to be everybody's representative and stuff like that. Yeah, I realize that's a lot of, BS sometimes, and that's a talking point that they have to say, but it is the job, right? So Lolota might have gotten 55% of the vote in my district, but that means there's 45% of the people that didn't vote for him. And he's still our representative, which means he has to represent us, and he should represent our interest even a little bit, or in this case, 45%. I will say an offensive message like that from my representative is going to prompt me to donate money and probably publicly support anybody that runs against him, because this dude has forgotten what his job actually is. He doesn't work for 55% of the people. He doesn't work just for Republicans. He doesn't work just for MAGA, and that's how he's acting. And our representatives need to stop doing that, and especially my representatives. So, like I said, come November, I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to make sure he is not reelected. So that's Nick Lolota. He can suck a bag of dicks for all I care, and I hope anybody good runs against him. Even a conservative Republican that realizes how ridiculous this is will get my vote over him. So that's kind of where I am right now in the universe. I'm really just so tired, so I don't feel like talking anymore. Sorry if that bored anyone and everyone. It is just another day here and not paradise in America. It's unfortunate, but it is. So why don't we just get to some music? I'm going to try and wind down, maybe get a cup of coffee, and I don't know, maybe go to Bed Bath & Beyond. I have no idea. It's time for some all-new episode. That's what I think.